Good morning, gearheads. Welcome to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM. We are getting prepped for the British Grand Prix, one of the favorites of the season, no doubt. This is John Massengale. I'm in the studio in Austin, Texas. My friend Jonathan Green is not going to be with us today. He's doing causing mayhem at Road Atlanta for Trans Am, or Road America, I think it is actually. But I am joined by Bob Varsha. Mr. Varsha, how are you?
Doing great. Sitting here in my hotel room in the midst of an Extreme E weekend for Fox Sports. But as you pointed out, you don't want to miss the British Grand Prix. It's an absolute spectacle.
And of course, former Haas F1 team manager Dave O'Neill is joining me from across town. How are you, Dave?
Very good, thank you. Happy to be here and looking forward to the race.
And I hear the voice and microphone of Chris Medland, who's at Silverstone. We're all jealous. Mr. Medland, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, you should be jealous today. The sun's out at the moment, so it's not terrible. And I know it's such a British thing to do, isn't it? To start every time I come on air talking about the weather. But,
about the weather, yep.
Yeah, it's been a key topic. So it looks like it's going to be a dry one today, which is a new challenge, I think, for everyone because they had such mixed conditions yesterday, and they're going to have to get used to lower temperatures, but fully dry all day today.
Well, do the British drivers know how to drive in the dry?
Just about. I mean, it was dry yesterday, wasn't it? And Lando Norris put it on the front row, so could have been worse. But I'll tell you what, let's try and find out what's going to happen in terms of strategy, because Mario Isola has just walked out to the Pirelli motorhome for me. And firstly, Mario, thank you, because I'm using your Wi-Fi to stay live right now. So the sun's out. It's a bit warmer than maybe yesterday was. What do you think that's going to do for strategy today?
Yeah, it's super difficult because there are also some showers that should join the circuit mid-race. So let's assume that is like this now. I believe that some teams are targeting a one-stop strategy using the medium and the hard, that are the two most conservative choices. But looking at the data from yesterday and Friday, also the soft is an option. In this case, you move to two stops, is a soft, medium, soft again. I'm saying that because we were thinking at the beginning that they were going to keep two sets of medium, but only Leclerc has two sets of medium. All the rest has only one set of medium, one set of hard. So this is the situation at the moment. Obviously, any shower is going to change completely the strategy.
I was just telling everyone it was a lovely day and that it's not raining right now and that we're going to get a dry race, but I hadn't looked at the radar that closely. So we've seen your intermediate tyres are pretty good across a wide range of conditions. What's kind of the crossover point going to be then? When are we going to be expecting to see teams having to go to wet weather tyres?
They collected some numbers from yesterday because we had in some occasions this crossover situation. The lap time is in the range of 1:39, but consider that if it happens at the beginning of the race or mid-race, you have also to calculate the level of fuel they have in the car. So it's not an absolute number. It's a number that is valid when you have a low level of fuel. If it happens earlier in the race, you have to add the fuel effect.
Just finally, you've got a new C1 compound, the hardest compound this year. And that tyre last year here didn't perform too well off the line with George Russell. A bit of a gamble to start on that tyre. But could people start on it today, especially if they're thinking rain might be in the air and they want to run until the rain hits?
I believe that's a good option especially for the cars that are in the back of the grid, because they keep the window open. They have the possibility to have a consistent tyre at the beginning of the race. And with this changeable weather, it's also an option. Maybe if it happens later in the race, you still have a good tires for a longer stint, and then you can change straight to intermediate or wet, depending on the condition. So it is an option for the guys in the back of the grid, and not for the one in front, because then you miss some grip at the beginning, and the delta lap time compared to the medium is quite compared to the medium is not big, but compared to the soft is quite high. And obviously, if you start on the hard and the other guys around you are starting on the soft at the beginning of the race, is quite difficult.
Yeah, well, it's good to know that all three compounds are available, though, and maybe the intermediate. All your tyres could get a workout today.
Yeah, that was our target, basically, to bring all the three compounds that are suitable for the race and give the possibility to the teams to choose different strategies and to gamble on something different.
Yeah, it'd be good to watch it play out. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Dave had a question. Chris, are you still there?
Oh, I can maybe see if he is. If there's one more question, yeah. Sorry, I'll grab him.
Go ahead,
What's the
Dave.
question, Dave?
Yeah, the question was that we've obviously seen some upgrades on some of the cars, i.e. McLaren, and also Mercedes have probably brought something to the Grand Prix. And the question I had for Mario, does he think that some of the cars are able to use the tyres better, in this case, obviously the McLaren over qualifying? And do we see that the Mercedes might be able to use the tyre better during the race, you know, with track temperatures? And does he think there's any effect there that we haven't seen? You know, for example, the Haas over qualifying on a good weekend is really quick, and during the race it seems to tail off, you know. So that's the question.
Yeah, so Mario, Dave wants to know really if the upgrades we've seen from some cars like McLaren, has that helped them get more out the tyres, switch them on better with more downforce, and maybe Mercedes, what they've done recently with upgrading their car might help them in race conditions?
Yeah, most of the teams are trying to better understand the tires in different situations. We know that when they are out of the window, they lose grip. McLaren in the past was super strong in crossover condition, or when the other teams were not able to reach the window, and usually they are able to use the car in a better way in this condition. But then sometimes they struggle with the consistency of the run. So I believe they have worked a lot, and Williams did the same in order to find consistency on the long run. Mercedes is quite consistent on the long run. They struggle more on the single lap in the past. So we have different situations, but this is part of the learning curve that we have every year to better understand the tires. When we supply the same product to everybody, the advantage you can have an advantage if you understand the tire better, and then you're able to design a car, able to, let's call, respect the tires. So that's why they are putting so much effort in understanding the tires.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for coming back as well. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question, Dave. I think, yeah, you're right that there's a focus there a little bit on with the upgrades, that they are thinking of how they will impact their tire usage and the way they switch them on, or how they care for them. Think of Ferrari, actually, guys. Like, their race pace at times had been pretty poor. They've been had high tire usage at the start of this season, and they look like they might be getting on top of that.
I had a question too, but I didn't want to extend the interview on Mario Isola's time because you promised one last question. But looking at the Pirelli data, a number of teams, including some heavy hitters, do not have any fresh sets of the soft red tire. Max Verstappen is out of the new tires. So are both Mercedes drivers. So are both Ferrari drivers. So that kind of limits their possibilities. What I would like to know from Mario is whether the used reds are effective to any extent at all versus new sets.
I can actually answer that because of chats I've had with them in the past. Yes, they are. Basically, that's one of the strengths that Pirelli have kind of developed this year in particular, and last year with this new kind of approach to tyres with the new regulations, is that the tyres recover their grip. So if you have a couple of cool down laps, if you can kind of use the peak for one lap over qualifying, and then you'd need to cool them down over the next lap, but they still have the grip in there. They just can't do it consistently lap after lap after lap in qualifying trim. So yeah, a set of softs that have been used for one qualifying run, they wouldn't be the perfect tire to use for another qualifying run, because you would then run out of grip or not have the same peak grip. But they will last. Once they've cooled down and you start a race on them, you've got enough grip in there for a while. But you have to manage it. But that's the case with the soft wherever we go. Right. If anyone starts the race on that here, we're looking at they need to be able to get to at least lap 11, maybe a bit further into the race, and that isn't easily done without some heavy management. So you might see some drivers jumping into the pits even earlier than that if they can't get the life out of the tire.
Yeah, and they'll be looking very closely at their used sets to pick the best ones. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dave or Chris, you have to use the tires in sets of 4. You can't mix and match once you've used them. You can't, use the best 4 red tires that you have. You've got to use them as a group. So somebody's got to do some careful examining of the used sets in the pits.
Correct. And sometimes teams have got in trouble for that, where they've put on the wrong one accidentally, and the right rear is from a different set. They're all soft tires, but the right rear is from set number 2 instead of set number 1.
George Russell
that does happen.
George Russell remembers that.
Yeah.
Cost
Yeah,
him a win.
Yeah,
yeah,
at
Valtteri
Bahrain on
Bottas's
his
tyres, wasn't
debut
it?
in
Yeah.
Mercedes. Yeah.
So that's the, and
Cool.
yeah, because each set's allocated to a certain car, because obviously otherwise a team could have a driver retire and the other driver suddenly would have a load of extra tires available to them. So each driver is allocated tires, not each team as a group. So yeah, you've got to be very careful with it. It's a pretty tough job, I think, for a lot of people to have to kind of juggle.
Yeah,
That's Formula One, isn't it? There's so much going on, so many moving parts.
Well, Chris, I know you want to go leave the Wi-Fi and go see if you can grab some interviews. So don't worry about it if you need to go, and we'll watch for any emails for interviews coming in, buddy.
I will do exactly that. So I'll hopefully speak to you guys pretty soon.
Okay.
Cheers,
Roger
mate.
that. Good luck.
just a little bit of intel on the tires is that typically you have one tire man per car, and their job, like is pretty complicated. They get all the information from the engineers. Also, every wheel is identified with a life number, and also a tire monitoring system is in all the wheels. You still can get mistakes. Someone else joins trying to be helpful, pulling a set of tires down in a rush. That's typically where you get the mistakes happen. But at the start of the official part of the weekend, each car gets, I'd say, like an official scrutineer that stands in the garage, and they have like what you see at the supermarket, which is a scanning tool. And every time a set of wheels gets put on the car, the scrutineer, the marshal, will scan the wheels before the car leaves the garage, which is effectively a tracking device. That's kind of the second slip, if you like, to catch a mistake. But again, mistakes do happen, and every time a mistake happens in Formula One, there's another procedure written for it, just to try and eliminate those scenarios.
And it's great that they do that scrutineering in the garage, because as we all know, the tires are not officially on the car till the car moves into the pit lane. So if they catch it before they leave the garage, they should be okay to fix it.
Yeah. I love the Dave talking about the tire pressure sensors in the F1 wheels. I wonder, and Dave or Bob, you might know this, I love the fact that when stuff trickles down to road cars, you remember the early days of road cars, tire pressure monitoring was really sketchy. It didn't work very good, and they were real fragile. When you get your new tires, they would break them. I wonder if the Formula One equipment has trickled down, and because they're fantastic now, but I'm sure that's part of some of the stuff that trickles down. But guys, let's go ahead and take our first break, because when we come back, we got to talk McLaren and Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after a quick break. All right, so we're still live on the stream here, and we got a couple of comments here on the stream. Dimas says, hello, Speed City. It's race day for the British Grand Prix. Love that. Can Max Verstappen win the 2023 and his first British Grand Prix win for Red Bull since Mark Webber 2012? Love that. Kevin Kelly is such a nerd. He says, I love tire talk. We do too, Kevin. Let's see what else. I said to everybody, we need to open it up for you guys to ask questions when Chris is interviewing. We gotta figure out a way to make that work a little smoother.
Yeah,
cool.
We need some kind of an indicator.
Yeah, we need to do. And Chris is on Zoom, so he can typically we just gotta
flag or something.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure he's watching his chat on Zoom. Ray says he's watching from your hometown of Atlanta, Bob.
All right, he's visiting, or
he says
he live there.
He says watching from Atlanta, so I'm assuming he lives there. But...
Okay, well,
hey, Dave,
in my apartment.
Yes, sir.
Here's a question for you from TW, who's I think been on every single YouTube show. He says, guessing they use nitrogen in the tires in F1. How accurate are the tire pressure monitor systems in pounds?
In pounds, yes. They most of them still use pounds, actually. And how accurate? 0.01 of a psi.
Wow.
very, very accurate. And the only way I can describe a tyre when it's at full working conditions is almost like a balloon just about to pop. You know, that's how you stop the rubber moving around so much to wear the tyre out. And of course, you know, huge amount of downforce now to hold the tyre together and onto the surface.
Is it nitrogen or?
It is nitrogen. They also tried helium in the tyre wars as well. So, which is obviously the lightest there with
Here we go.
Reduced amount of moisture.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. We're about 45 minutes from the Formula One British Grand Prix, an iconic race at Silverstone, an iconic racetrack. What am I supposed to say? The checklist is former airfield, check. Fast, check. Flowing, check. But awesome. I think everybody would agree that this is one of the ones that everybody wants to go to. And that's clear and obvious by the estimated crowd of 480,000 people to see. Bob, I'm watching your smile. I mean, does that just blow your mind? I'm thinking back not that long ago.
Well, definitely. I mean, because I go back far enough to the days when they would limit the ticket sales for the event at, I believe the number was 99,000, and that was all they sold for lots of different reasons, mainly because they didn't have seats for everybody. So they built massive grandstands. I must say, Silverstone over the years has been developed as a facility, not just a racetrack, which has been modified a number of times, but as the entire facility, all the industry around it and driver schools and all the different things they do at Silverstone, in addition to their racing program. It's just mind-boggling to think that they now have a capacity for 480,000 people over the 3 days. It's just unbelievable. Well, but that's Formula One these days.
Yeah. And just watching the ESPN ratings on and ABC TV ratings, it seems like that's going to continue. It's still on an upward trajectory. Well, when we went to break, I said we'd talk about McLaren, and I definitely want to. I don't want to forget about the insane dominance of Max Verstappen, because you'll hear it. We got a clip from Lando Norris that I want to play, but everybody's, every driver is just massive respect for Max Verstappen and what he's doing. But we have to be excited about what McLaren did this weekend, because having Lando and Oscar Piastri second and third is just really amazing. And let's go ahead and hear from Lando Norris to start off with that.
Good day, yeah, nice. Very happy. I mean, pleasure to do it here in front of the crowd, especially like the whole lap. I was just watching the crowd cheering and applauding. So was a nice lap. I pulled it out, I think, a little bit because my Q3 1 lap was pretty shocking. To pull it out and kind of put everything together on the last lap, and to be pole for a few moments until Max came along was pretty nice. So, yeah.
It gives a good hand clap, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was very special. I mean, to do it here, especially for us as a team. I guess not just being selfish and saying me, but for us, for Oscar to be P3 as well. For us as a team, it's pretty amazing. So very happy. I don't think it could have been a lot better unless Max wasn't here, but he is. So pretty special day.
I know you've got the upgrade here, but where did that pace come from, and what can you do tomorrow?
Where did it come from? I mean, the upgrade is working well. I think, like we said, in Austria, it was there. We definitely didn't expect to be where we were now. That's a fact. So tough to know where it all came from. I think at points this weekend we've looked good, but I struggled quite a bit yesterday with confidence and putting things together. And really, we didn't actually seem that quick. So I was a little bit worried. Not worried, I was a little bit worried. But we managed to work on the car quite a bit, make quite a few changes from yesterday to today, and especially in conditions like this. Was I P1 in Q2 as well?
3.
Same thing. So I was, I mean, we're always towards the front, top 3 in every session, and Q1, P1. So Yeah, plenty of positives. The car's working well, obviously, but the big thing is to try and convert it into, I want to say a top 5. Let's convert it into a top 5 tomorrow, and I'll be happy.
You know, Lando brought up when he mentioned Piastri. Let's not forget how celebrated Oscar Piastri coming in. What did he win? The FIA Formula 3, then he won FIA Formula 2, and to be where he is with Lando, if I'm not mistaken, Lando got all the upgrades. Piastri got all of them except for the front wing. So I'm very impressed with Piastri too.
Yeah, and the obviously the time is legitimate. I mean, we sometimes suspect teams that are suddenly quick, take Williams this weekend, for example, that maybe they just went, on very low fuel and soft tires early in the weekend to try to impress sponsors and whatnot. But McLaren's been quick or thereabouts in every session. So that and the fact that both drivers are right there producing near identical times shows that it's legit. And I must say it's been a great job under Zach Brown's leadership, McLaren, Andrea Stella on the technical side. And the thing that gets me is they seem to have a wonderful balance at the top of the chain of command, as it were. I'm sure Zach Brown, although he's a racer himself, keeps his mouth shut and short when it comes to technical matters, because Zach's genius is marketing. And we can see that in the number of sponsors they have. They just load up, despite the troubles they've had in recent seasons. But they seem to have that great balance on the technical side. The engineers and designers, mechanics, and so on just go about their jobs, get the job done, while Zach, just keeps the funding flowing in. It's a great story.
Hey, Dave O'Neill, what do you think about where McLaren has come? I mean, I think we said it yesterday on the post-qualifying shows. I think thinking back at the beginning of the season, it was pretty scary. This surprises me because I was thinking, how do you climb out of a hole as bad as it looked at the beginning of the year for McLaren? And what do you think about what they've done? And do you think that this is an anomaly? You think they'll keep going?
I kind of, I read into Lando's voice a little bit in the interview when he said, we're looking for a points finish. I think they've got a fantastic car in qualifying. They've done an absolutely great job putting the car there. They've worked hard. They've definitely made the car better, without a doubt. But by the sound of his voice, I do hear that they're going to struggle to, to get a top 5 finish with the way their tires are going to work during the course of the race. That's just my feeling. And if they don't, happy days. We're going to see a McLaren on the podium and a British driver there, which will be great for the crowd. But I mean, you can't forget that 9 other teams are working just as hard as McLaren to try and make strides forward and gains, etc. But what I would like to say is I think that Piastri is pretty special. If you think what Norris did with Ricciardo over the last couple of seasons,
Piastri next.
He's definitely a special driver. Keeping up with Norris. Norris is quick every time he goes out. He's the real deal. And Piastri, 9 times out of 10, he's definitely hanging onto his coattails and probably pushing him as well. Which is a great thing. You got to have 2 drivers pushing each other, otherwise you're not going to move forward.
Right, and I think you think of Norris, the frustration, the what ifs that must be in his mind. Recall that he was in position to take his first victory in Russia, in Sochi, 3 years ago, and he was leading late in the race when the rains came, and he was caught out on the wrong tire, and he got passed, and he had to do a pit stop and fell further back. Heartbreaking for the young driver at the time. He's been in for a bunch of seasons now, but he still hasn't got that first win. And I imagine that's been eating at him. And so this opportunity to start on the front row, maybe he's got to let Max go and fight those behind him, including his young teammate. But boy, I'd love to be inside Lando Norris's head as he approaches this race.
Bob, he's only one pit lane crash by Max Verstappen away from the win right now.
Yeah, right. Or, beach it. What the heck?
That was a pretty amazing crash that Verstappen did in the pit lane yesterday,
Oh,
where he literally,
yeah.
I mean, totally broke the wing in half, the front wing. It was crazy.
Yeah. I wish we had that. And I'm sure it exists somewhere on video.
Yeah.
He said he pulled out. He was just going too fast to get out there and he understeered into the wall. But you're right. He really clouded it to break that front wing.
Is that the first mistake from Max Verstappen all year, though?
Well, that's the place to make it, I guess, as long as it's not in the race.
Hey, we talked about Oscar Piastri. Let's hear from him now.
Yeah, very, very, very happy. I think we were optimistic we could be more towards the front from yesterday. It was a bit of a messy day, but the overall pace seemed to be solid. I think going into today with the conditions we had before qualifying, generally our car's done quite well when it's like that. Barcelona, we saw a similar thing. So I think there's an element of that, but having the upgrades on both cars this week for the most part has definitely been a help. And yeah, I think we both put in solid laps too. So I'm very, very happy for myself to be back in the top three. But it's a great day for the team as well.
Yeah, both cars in a really great position for tomorrow's race. What do you think is possible based on the long runs from Friday?
I think our long runs looked reasonable. It's going to be tricky with some quick cars behind us. The Mercedes looked very strong yesterday. We'll see. But, Max is definitely in another league. But, a lot of people are out of position. We can use that to our advantage, hopefully, tomorrow. And I think Lando showed last week that the upgrades are hopefully more beneficial on Sundays as well. And we can definitely fight the cars that we're around now. So, yeah, we'll see what's possible and set our hopes high.
Seems like a pretty mature young man, obviously clearly talented as well.
Yeah, and he's got his manager, Mark Webber, who knows a thing or two about racing at Silverstone to sort of keep him straight and level.
Yeah. Kevin Kelly says on YouTube, he says, wait till they take the chrome advertising off the McLaren. They might be at a bit of a weight disadvantage at the moment.
Yeah, we don't talk about that much, those incremental weights, just ounces that the teams worry about constantly. You'll notice on some of the onboard cameras that even teams like Ferrari don't paint the entire car anymore. They just put their colors down the nose and provide a backdrop for sponsors on the engine cover. Williams pioneered that look to save weight from the paint job on the cars. And with all that chrome on the cars, I heard it speculated that McLaren stripped off that phenomenal little window they put on either side of the driver's cockpit that can change to show different sponsors during the course of the race. We saw that, you and I, John, in Austin last year, where the inventors of that technology showed it to us. Paper thin, but still more weight than they wanted on that car when they put the chrome.
That's crazy. And Dave, when Bob was just saying ounces, I bet in your head you're thinking grams, weren't you?
Well, I think the weight is one thing, but also to complement it, it comes down to the aero as well. So, the stickers are 40 microns, which basically, they're almost like tissue paper, thinner than tissue paper, if you can imagine that. And then on the rear wing, they're lacquered over, so they go in the wind tunnel, do certain tests, and obviously the underneath of the rear wing technically shouldn't have any stickers on. Makes a big difference. Where we did lots of aero testing and put, if you imagine masking tape, 2-inch masking tape, 3 strips of it on the back wing just to see what it would do at 60, 80 mile an hour in a full size wind tunnel, and lost 10 kilos of downforce. So all those tests have been done. So like Bob says, and especially the leading edges of any of the wings don't have any paint on the forward edge of them. So there's an inch 25 millimeters back is where the paint starts, or vinyl. A lot of the red wraps. I'd say probably 40% of the cars are still painted, but there's an awful lot of wrap there still. And most of the cars get painted after each race. So cars get stripped down, sent back to the factory. the paint is scraped off with a scalpel, and then the primer's put on, rubbed down to nothing, and then the paint's put on. So everything gets weighed, obviously for obvious reasons, and then each component of the car has a weight, and it's put on a build sheet, and then you build the car up like that to get your weight prior to the car touching the ground and going out.
They paint the car, sand it down to 1,000th of a micron so the paint's not weighing anymore.
It's amazing. I remember when Ford brought Jaguar to Formula One before it became Red Bull. There were stories about their testing. They tested paints, various paints, not only for weight, trying to get the very lightest covering possible, but also for color. They wanted something that would pop on the TV cameras. And so they tested all kinds of different stuff. Of course, testing was pretty wide open back in those days. You'd be amazed at the length these teams go to, not only for performance, but for appearance. And when you see the cars in the garage, and you see they're taping over the seams like NASCAR does at places like Talladega, that's not just, Scotch tape they bought down at the hardware store. That's helicopter tape that was specially designed to put on the leading edge of helicopter rotors to be not only tough, but also extremely lightweight.
All right, gentlemen, we need to get a quick break in. And when we come back, we're going to have an exclusive interview from Daniel Ricciardo that Chris Medland just got. And also, Bob's going to walk us through the grid. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these messages. Yep, he texted right after I asked. All right, we're live on the stream. Who do we got out there? Kevin Kelly's filling the whole stream. TW in Thailand responded to Kevin Kelly, said, Chrome, don't get you home. I like that. Oh, let's see. What else is going on here?
Took me a long time to figure out that the Chrome was on there because Chrome is a sponsor from Google. Duh.
Well, that's because you were thinking of the Chrome that used to be on the car back when Lewis Hamilton drove for McLaren.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is happening out there.
I'll cop to that plea.
David,
in case folks are wondering why, as Dave said earlier, they use nitrogen to inflate the tires. It's because nitrogen is an inert gas. It doesn't fluctuate with temperature and moisture the way air does. If you just filled it with normal atmospheric air, you get some pretty wild fluctuations.
Yeah. When you
and
see
the treads on these tires are about 1/4 of an inch thin. The tires are miraculous things, I have to say.
Yeah, I love to watch those shows that talk about how they make tires. I'd love to see how the F1 tires get made. Let's see here. See anybody else? Let me go back to YouTube real quick. Andy P says, great stuff. Probably one of my more nerdy pre-race buildups. Hoping for a good result today. Yes, we are hoping for a good result. And yes, I love these nerdy pre-race discussions. Speaking of nerdy pre-race discussions, I had a great interview. Did an interview with the CTO of VMware, who sponsors our Saturday broadcast and the Wheel to Wheel. And he is a complete gearhead, and had a great chat with him. I'm going to put that up maybe later today. Here we go.
Yeah, please. I want to hear that.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. Apparently, Chris Medland was able to catch up with Daniel Ricciardo out at Silverstone. And if Casey gives me the thumbs up, we are ready to hear that. Let's hear from Daniel Ricciardo.
So I've got Daniel Ricciardo with me after flipping the bird from the Red Bull garage. So I'm going to put him on the spot and keep him here for 20 minutes. No, Daniel, firstly, how excited are you to drive this car this week?
Very much so, Christopher, very much. I'm hanging out just to drive in general. I've had enough of a break now where I've got, let's say, I don't know if it's an Australian expression, but like ants in my pants.
I know us Brits use that as well.
Okay, good. So in a positive way. So but of course it's a phenomenal car, and I'm excited to feel it around here, and such a high-speed circuit as well.
Well, it is looking quick this weekend, certainly in Max's hands. Are you pretty much expecting a procession at the front? Is it ever nervous in this garage?
I mean, these days Max is probably cooler than a cucumber. I don't know what that is. Is it like a gherkin maybe? Are they cooler?
I don't think they are.
I don't know. Anyway.
He's ice cold.
He's ice cold. He's obviously in awesome form, but look, obviously the weather here is like the big one, and I know like every race you're like, oh, you got to see about the weather, but Silverstone's a real thing, and yesterday the sun was shining and it was raining at the same time, so I look out into the pit lane and it's raining, yet I'm seeing like green sectors, so I'm like, it doesn't make sense, this place. So but it could throw a spanner in today.
Well, when you watch all that and this kind of hype up moment where everyone would be getting a nervous energy, do you miss it?
Yeah, of course. Like this is my favorite part of race weekend. It's the build up now to the race. When you're about 10-15 minutes out, it's really awesome, and you know, like the grid gets packed and it's a bit of a zoo. It's chaos, but it's kind of a fun chaos. So I do miss it, but it's all good. I'm letting it all happen as it comes, and then I have confidence I'll be back on the grid at some point, and obviously I'm not 100% sure of it, but I'm confident it'll happen again one day.
Yeah, AlphaTauri could have a seat next year.
Never know, mate. Never know. So I'm staying ready. I sat on the couch for 2 months over Christmas, but since then I've been getting back into my training and enjoying it.
Well, have a blast this week.
Thank you, mate.
Good to hear from Daniel Ricciardo, and good to hear from our sponsor here, CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60 as the official cybersecurity partner of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. CrowdStrike protects against cyber threats so the team can focus on what matters, their next win. The revolutionary cloud-native unified CrowdStrike Falcon platform harnesses the speed and power of the cloud to protect and defend organizations of all sizes against increasingly complex threats, stopping breaches before they happen. Because on and off the track, the stakes couldn't be higher. A split second can make the difference between victory and defeat. When every second counts, protection shouldn't slow you down. It should fuel your momentum. CrowdStrike, protection at every turn. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. Yes, Daniel Ricciardo is missed on the grid, and that just shows how competitive it is, isn't it, boys? But Bob Varsha, speaking of the grid, you want to try to get the grids, read the grid for us before Chris Medland interrupts you as usual?
That's right. Oh, I fully expect he's going to interrupt me. Okay, here we go. On row one, P1, Max Verstappen for Red Bull. Who else? His 50th front row start and 5th straight pole of 2023. That's a personal best for the championship leader, but only the first time for a Red Bull on the front row at Silverstone since 2011. Next to him, the pride of all England, Lando Norris in the much improved McLaren. By contrast, it's only the Brit's third career front row start and the first for McLaren here since Heikki Kovalainen took pole in 2008. On row two, Oscar Piastri for McLaren. A rookie, no doubt. These papaya-colored cars were the sensation of qualifying. The last time two McLarens started in the top three was Monza 2021, when the guy we just heard from, Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, finished 1-2. Let's not forget that. Starting P4, Charles Leclerc, the first of the Ferraris. He's always quick at wide open Silverstone. His 5th top 4 start, although he has never won here. On row 3, starting P5, Carlos Sainz in the 2nd Ferrari, last year's pole sitter, out-qualified by Leclerc by just 12 thousandths of a second. The Spaniard, you may have heard, voiced his displeasure at being told to let his teammate ahead in the closing minutes of Q2, despite being higher than Leclerc in the points and in greater jeopardy of being eliminated in the session. All is not entirely well at Ferrari, methinks. Starting P6, George Russell at Mercedes, out-qualified teammate Lewis Hamilton for the first time in 5 starts, evening their season head-to-head in qualifying at 5 apiece. Row 4, Lewis Hamilton, P7 in the Mercedes, like Russell, complaining of a general lack of grip, resulting in the 7-time Silverstone winner, starting from his worst grid slot in the last 11 years at his home track. P8, Alex Albon in the equally surprising Williams. Albon puts that Williams in Q3 for the 3rd successive race. That's the first driver at Williams who's done that since Felipe Massa 6 years ago. Row 5, P9, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, previously the only driver to start in the top 8 in every race this season, but now He has his lowest start of the year and only escaped Q1 by 19 thousandths of a second. P10, Pierre Gasly for Alpine starts in the top 10 for the second race in a row and the first time in his last 3 trips to Silverstone. Moving to row 6, P11, Nico Hülkenberg for Haas, nipped at the very end of Q2, missing a 4th consecutive top 10 start for the American-owned team. Next to him, Lance Stroll in the second Aston Martin, who ran afoul of Esteban Ocon's Alpine in the critical laps of Q2 after out-qualifying teammate Alonso in 2 of the last 3 races. Row 7, P13, Esteban Ocon for Alpine. The Frenchman missed Q3 by less than 0.2 of a second, thanks to that coming together with Lance Stroll, failing to make Q3 at Silverstone for the 4th visit in a row. Excuse me. P14, Logan Sargent of the United States in the Williams made Q2 and starts 14th for the second time this season, following on from Azerbaijan. Williams, no question, has made a huge step up as well. We'll see if they can do it in the race. Row 8, P15, Sergio Perez with Red Bull waited at the pit out for 9 minutes under a red flag and lost tire temp as a result. A double winner, let's remind ourselves, this season, out in Q1 at Silverstone, out for the 5th straight race. Moved up 1 spot, though, thanks to a penalty to Valtteri Bottas. More on that in a moment. P16, Yuki Tsunoda with AlphaTauri, who said this weekend he hopes to sign a new deal with the team, one of a handful of drivers, including Lewis Hamilton, seeking new contracts. On row 9, P17, Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo started top 10 here last year, but remember, he then suffered that spectacular crash at the start when he collided with George Russell out in Q1 this time around. How things have changed. P18, Nick de Vries in the AlphaTauri, the Dutchman joining teammate Tsunoda, making it both AlphaTauri cars eliminated in Q1 for the 3rd straight race. All is not well down in Faenza. Row 10, P19, Kevin Magnussen in the second Haas. The car failed him early in qualifying to bring out a red flag with 3 minutes or so to go in Q1, sparking that red flag, which led to chaos when the remaining 19 cars hit the track in a group out in Q1 for the 5th straight British Grand Prix. And starting 20th, Valtteri Bottas in the second Alfa Romeo had timed in 15th, but suffered a power loss in qualifying, probably due to the fact that he was out of fuel because he couldn't provide the mandatory liter of fuel for the scrutineers when they brought the car back, and thus was DQ'd. But even in his original 15th place grid spot, the Finn hasn't started this low at Silverstone since his rookie year at Williams in 2013. So there you have it.
Yes, and one thing we got to talk about, guys, is the Williams team, because they have been fast all weekend, and Logan Sargent's probably a little disappointed, but Alex Albon, I mean, you got to be excited for him and the Williams team. I mean, we think it could potentially be this circuit, but no matter what, it's still exciting for them.
Oh, absolutely. Given all the troubles Williams has been through, I just can't express my admiration for what James Vowles, who came over from Mercedes, has done with that team thus far. And he seems to have the perfectly measured approach to the whole thing. Don't get ahead of yourself. We're improving. We'll take it step by step. Give us time. And clearly, particularly what Alex Albon is doing with that car, getting to Q3 on pretty much a regular basis now. And Logan Sargent coming around with that second Q2 performance of his very brief career to this point. Yeah, things are looking kind of rosy for Williams, I'd have to say. But as we see so often this year, let's see what happens in the race, because it's a whole nother animal from qualifying.
Hey, guys, I was watching the television, and I saw Chris Medland standing around like a lion on the prairie looking for his next victim. And apparently he had just interviewed Zach Brown and sent that to us. So let's hear from Zach Brown.
Zach, I've just followed Brad Pitt onto the grid.
But I'm talking to Brad Pitt.
I wasn't talking to him. You were?
No, I am Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'll get there at the end. Well, I was going to say, surely the true Hollywood story, though, would be a McLaren win today, wouldn't it?
It sure would be nice, but, Max is pretty unbeatable. So let's see. Anything can happen. We're going to give it our best shot. Really proud of the team. And hopefully we can have a couple cars on the podium. Wouldn't that be nice in our home race?
I mean, standing here, you must be so proud, though. When there's only one car in front of you, both cars up here, a lot of orange.
There's a lot of orange. It's great to not have to walk that far when you get onto the grid. So weather's nice. I don't think there's any threat of rain. The fans look like they're here in the hundreds of thousands. So hopefully we'll put on a good show.
Yeah, it's cloud over right now on the grid. That's a good thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, the cooler weather's good. The wind's picking up, so we'll see how that affects all of us.
Yeah, and you say both cars on the podium. Are they realistic targets, do you think? Can you keep them both up here? Is the car that quick now?
I don't think it's unrealistic, and I think it's going to be very difficult, but I think it's achievable.
Well, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like Zach Brown said yesterday. He said, well, we don't come into Sunday planning on going backwards. So you got to take a grain of salt. And when Chris was standing there, by the way, when I spotted him, he was right behind Mick Doohan. How many championships in MotoGP did Mick Doohan win? Like 5 in a row or something?
5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, some crazy.
Right
So
on
the British stars are out in Silverstone. All right, guys, let's take our last break. Let's squeeze that in real quick. And when we come back, we'll see what else Chris grabs from Silverstone. We got our final countdown to the British Grand Prix after this. All right. Yes, I Googled it. It's 5 championships from Mick Doohan. Man, the stars.
You didn't trust me?
Yeah, the stars are definitely out. It's so cool to see Chris with our Mike Cube out there.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you, Mick Doohan is one tough hombre. I mean, he's shattered his legs on motorcycles, riding these incredibly difficult Honda 500s.
Yeah.
And kept coming back, kept winning championships. Man.
We got some comments here on YouTube. Will says, Daniel could easily replace a couple drivers on this grid too. Too bad we don't have another team or two for them to add Daniel back in. Who knows? Maybe we will have another team soon. Kevin Kelly says, Sam Collins says there's an 89% chance of a safety car, so team's planning on a 2-stop race. Let's
89,
see.
not 90?
Yeah, 89.35. No. Will says, I think the front rows can likely get through the first corner lap safely, but let's see if Stroll or Ocon and Gasly can. Yeah, that's a good point. TW says, the unknown is Piastri starting P3. No one knows how he's going to react. That one's been percolating in the back of my head, TW, about Piastri, because he is so good and so quiet about it, too, is what it feels like.
Well, he's going to be in a great spot. Starting P3, he's going to be right behind Verstappen. And Verstappen's going to pull a Michael Schumacher and slide right across Lando Norris's bow as they head down to that right-hander in turn 1. So if I'm Oscar, I'm on the gearbox of the guy ahead of me.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go back.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
The Speed City F1 pre-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. All right, we are now about 11 minutes from the 2023 Formula One British Grand Prix right here on SiriusXM. You can stay tuned for the race and then our post-race show immediately following the race coverage brought to you by the BBC folks. And we talked about during the break on YouTube, we were talking about, potential Daniel Ricciardo maybe having a drive with a new team. And there's, of course, the rumors are strong and still strong about the Andretti team. And we also have an 11th team on the grid today, don't we, Bob? Sort of.
We do? At the movie cars?
Yeah, I'm just saying on the grid. We have them at the circuit. We've got the Brad Pitt movie crew on there with their.
And as I was listening to Daniel Ricciardo, I kept thinking, who's driving for the movie? Who's you need real race drivers to drive the cars for the scenes. I thought Daniel Ricciardo might be an ideal stunt driver, as it were, to go out there and really wring a Formula One car by its neck. But I have no idea what their plans are.
Daniel Ricciardo's
I have no idea how good a driver. Can Brad Pitt drive? I don't know.
Daniel Ricciardo's a great idea because for multiple reasons. One, he's clearly a good driver. And by the way, it's an F2 car that they have dressed up to look like an F1 car. But think about what Daniel could bring to it also is the publicity because he's so popular.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Double win there. Dave
There's
O'Neill.
footage on the internet of those cars going around. They look very much like Formula 1
Oh yeah,
cars.
the pictures look awesome. Dave O'Neill, what do you think about this Hollywood? If you were a team manager today, would you be cranky and by this distraction, or would you say, "Hey, this is good for the sport," or both?
I think it's great for the sport. It's probably the first time anyone's been allowed to do it properly. Getting all the info. I think he was in the driver's briefing on Friday. So they're getting right into under the skin of it all to understand, and hopefully we'll see something that is pretty real when it comes out. I look forward to seeing it, to be honest.
All right,
me too.
Well, we were just talking about the Williams team. Chris Medland has caught up with James Vowles, team principal. Let's hear from him.
I've come and found James Vowles, who is, you're a spanner in the works of Aston Martin at least today. Have you got the car pace to keep this car in the top 10, do you think?
I think we have to be realistic. Aston Martin all year long have been competitive in the race trim, and I don't think there'll be any difference today, but I think if we get away in position, we have the ability to hold on to what we've got. Difficult around the stops, but still we have a fast enough car that we're fighting for points today.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised as everyone else that Alex was in the top 3 in all 3 practice sessions? Because the car just looked genuinely quick all weekend.
I think Alex and Logan as well on Friday in the top 5 or 6, but a little bit surprised. We came here knowing that the car, with the properties of the track, should be competitive. Since Montreal, clearly we've put a good package on the car, and it's now delivered at 3 events. So is it a surprise we're in Q3? I think we've shown the last 2 that we have the ability to deliver that if we get it all right. But you also have to remember at Q1 at certain points in time, we look to be in real trouble. So it's still not a package that's working perfectly in all conditions.
Wind's picking up, clouding over, hint of rain potentially at some point in the race. What are you hoping for? Do you need it nice and calm and dry, or would you like some chaos?
Can I answer that question halfway through, depending on what's happening? I think, as you said, there's rain about 50 minutes out at the moment. May or may not hit. It's really hard to predict when it's that far away. For me at the moment, actually, I'd like a dry race. I think Alex is doing a good job, and I think it gives Logan an opportunity to learn in these conditions, close back up to the back, and I think you'll see Logan in there in the mix as well.
I was going to say, do you reckon he can pick up a point today?
I think it's going to be tough, but he's going to do his utmost.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, speaking of Chris Medland, he has joined us back from Silverstone. Mr. Medland, how's it going, buddy? Good job.
Oh, it's clouded over. I've lost the sun. Sorry. I'm just always going to start every link with the weather report. Thanks. It was tough because of the lack of connectivity and trying to see people. Yeah, it's pretty tricky actually. So it's packed down there. It's some atmosphere actually. It's probably the liveliest and most star-studded British Grand Prix I've seen. So
we were watching you on the telly, as they say.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a word with Daniel Ricciardo there, which I know you've played out, who genuinely did kind of jokingly give me the finger at first when I sort of tried to catch his eye to request an interview, and then he came over and gave us one. So when I departed, I returned the favour.
And he called you Christopher. I noticed you've formed quite the relationship with Daniel.
Oh, he's always full naming me. It's it's the professional relationship that we have. But yeah, he's really looking forward to this week. It's I nearly asked him about what he really wants from Checo today. Like, he's in Red Bull gear, he's part of the team, so surely he wants the team to do well. But obviously, if Checo keeps underperforming, that maybe opens the door for him. But I thought it's maybe rather than focusing on another driver, just focus on himself. And yeah, he didn't say no to AlphaTauri there, did he?
Yeah. Hey, Dave O'Neill has a question for you, Chris.
Hit me.
Hey, Chris, we talked yesterday, and I wondered if you had any intel in the new teams that had their proposals in. I think it's 6 of them, isn't there? If there was any news out this weekend.
So nothing official, but actually at one point when I ran off just now, when I first jumped off being live with you guys, it's because I chased Ollie Oakes from High Tech. And he's not able to chat on record at the moment, but I was meant to be going to have a look, and it'll probably be this week, at their facility here at Silverstone. And he said that they've got a lot of people in there. They've had a wind tunnel model running since last July. So a whole year. They're now on their second wind tunnel model. So they're very advanced with their plans. he seems to think that Andretti are a long way behind. I've been told this weekend that Andretti are not far behind. They're actually soon to put a wind tunnel model into a wind tunnel. And just the way that the weight of GM behind them is actually being underestimated by people about how involved GM would be in terms of creating the whole car, the chassis side of things, not just power unit that everyone thinks about. So, yeah, I'm sure we can get stuck into it more detail post-race. But yeah, they are the two big ones that really seem to be leading the way and will be most hoping to be put forward. But there's no firm deadline. They still think before the summer break, so before the end of this month. But it was originally the end of June, then it was the middle of July, and then they're like, no, we're just going to take that away in terms of a deadline, and we'll just go whenever. Update, it's just starting to rain. It is spitting where I am stood, and there's dark clouds above.
Anybody?
I don't think it's hard enough to do that yet.
Perfect.
I'm actually back in the paddock. But no, it's not heavy enough yet, but this is not, no one said it was coming at this point, did they?
No.
Not even our favorite weatherman, Chris Medland.
Wedland this weekend.
Well, I was told with that new social media app, I'm Chris Threadland as well.
Oh, nicely played.
Chris, on the Ferraris, we've been a bit quiet about them, but they're still there in the mix. Do you think they got a strong race car?
Yeah, I do. We chatted to Fred Varsha yesterday after qualifying, and he was kind of like, yeah, we didn't capitalize everything today, so we're not delighted about that, but we'll see how we can maximize tomorrow. I think actually for them, if they can get at least one of those cars ahead of the McLarens early, an aggressive first couple of laps or something from Carlos or Charles, then they're in a great spot, because I think the McLarens are quick enough to hold back like some Mercedes or even Alonso and create a bit of a gap to give some breathing space to Ferrari. So yeah, I think they'll be targeting a podium with at least one of their cars.
Yeah, you would
I think they'll get it.
All right, guys, we're under 3 minutes in the show, and that means we're like 5 minutes from the race. So I think it's time for us to talk about some predictions, and we have a spicy top 3 to talk about. But why don't we start with you, Mr. Varsha? What do you think's going to happen today?
Well, I think Max Verstappen's going to win. I'll go out on a limb and say that. The rest of my podium, I'm going to say Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill, what do you think?
I'm going to go for Leclerc, Lando, and Max.
Okay. There you go.
Ooh.
All right, Mr. Medland, you've got the home field advantage out there. What's your prediction?
Well, I nearly ended up with the same as Dave, but this is obviously left field. But I'm going to go Leclerc, Lando, Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm laughing because you guys left the door wide open for me to say Lando's going to win this race because Max is going to crash in the pit again, and followed by Oscar Piastri and another hometown boy, George Russell. How about that?
Well, I like how specific you were about what Max is going to do. That was to the point. If he gets that right,
impressed.
Yeah, lottery numbers from John if he's right with that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, John. Keep in mind, Max only has to leave the garage once, and it's before the race begins.
Yeah,
and I can't confirm he safely managed that this time around, so he's okay on that front.
Don't bother me with those details, Bob. Just let me live in my fantasy land.
Can't believe anybody didn't pick Sonny Hayes to do well in this one, or Apex GP.
Well, we know, we know what's going to happen to Sonny.
I was actually sending you guys that interview with Daniel, and I was stood by the grid entrance, and I suddenly looked up, and genuinely at that point, Brad Pitt was walking towards me in his full race overalls to go onto the grid. So I don't know what filming he actually did down there, and I'm not meant to give away any details of anything like that. But yeah, I genuinely looked up, and I was like, oh. Was not expecting to see that face right in front of me. So it's a bit bizarre having this going on.
Did you ask for a Brad Pitt interview, or are they giving everybody the Heisman Trophy?
Probably no chance. This is all, they're keeping it under wraps while they're filming, and they want them to focus on filming and all of that.
All right, guys.
Can't really say anything about the film yet.
All right, guys, we're out of time. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. And, of course, stay right here for the race, but bring yourself back for the post-race show. And give us a call, 512-643-LIVE. Write the phone number down and give us a call after the race. you know what? It's probably start for us to start thinking about giving away some tickets to COTA. So join us after the race. You're listening to Speed City. Back after this.